Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Growing Kentucky's Leaders. I'm one of your hosts, Sheldon McKinney.
And I'm your other host, Ruth Ann Fink.
And today we have with us Dr. Tony Brannon. He is a familiar face to many, the retired dean of the Hutson School of Agriculture at Murray State University. He was a longtime board member of the Kentucky FFA Foundation. He's a farmer, a husband, a dad, recently grandfather, and most recently was named the Outstanding Rural Kentuckian by the Kentucky Electric Cooperatives. So welcome, Dr. Brannon.
Great to be here.
Yeah, let's start at maybe the beginning and just introduce yourself to our guests, who you are, and maybe share how FFA became a part of your journey.
Certainly, Sheldon. It's been good to be with y'all today and appreciate so much everything that y'all do to support Kentucky FFA. Very important. My story began on the home farm. They say I was cutting my teeth on the steering wheel of a Model B Alice Chalmers tractor, and I've been an Alice Chalmers fan ever since. I grew up on a farm, very fortunate. That was in the midst of the dark tobacco region, where dark tobacco put food on our plates. And somehow they stretched that January check all the year round to provide us a very, very good upbringing of mediocre sorts, as you might say. But I really found my footing in FFA as a high school FFA member, starting in the ninth grade. I was not always the motivated member. Matter of fact, we laugh about it with my former advisor. On the day of the finals of the FFA Creed, I played sick because I didn't want to win it. And he said, "No, you're going to say it," because I knew it forward, backward, sideways. And I just went up there and went through it. I believe in future agriculture, faith born not of words, but of deeds, and said it like I didn't really want to win it. And fortunately, he stuck with me and gave me other opportunities. I've always regretted that. Matter of fact, when I was in student teaching, I wrote my own sixth paragraph of the FFA Creed just to kind of have a little, feedback or retribution of myself for not doing that. So FFA, then I had other opportunities and had the opportunity to serve as a state FFA officer in Tennessee. And through that experience, really saw the depth and the breadth of FFA and what it could mean to careers, and I really locked in there. I have a very fond remembrance of being a state officer and coming to the Kentucky FFA convention in 1978, and a silver-haired man by the name of Delmer Dalton welcomed me to Kentucky. And it was just magnificent to be at the Galt House and be in one place with all those FFA members. In Tennessee, they had always had theirs either at Nashville at the auditorium there, or at Gatlinburg, and it was kind of spread out all over town. So to be all in one place at one time was quite fascinating to me. I then came to Murray State. I was very fortunate, and I've had to pinch myself many times to grow up 9 miles from a university that is a great regional university and gave me a great opportunity. If I'd had to go off to school, I probably wouldn't. I wanted to farm. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I loved. And yet I went on and I got my degree in ag education, but I always said I didn't want to teach. And so I graduated, and I had an opportunity actually to go to Union County, Kentucky, with Ray Wells there. I just didn't feel like it was a great opportunity. Just didn't feel like it was right for me. I had the opportunity extended to me to become a graduate assistant and stay at Murray. And then the next year I had graduated, was just hanging around the farm, hipping, and got a call from a former state supervisor in Tennessee, Ralph Barnett. And he said, "Are you just going to hang around farm, or are you going to get a teaching job? You go to Trenton Peabody High School, they'll probably hire you." And it was like August the 8th, and they started like the 12th. And so I went and interviewed. They hired me that day. And I spent 4 of the best years of my life as a high school agriculture teacher.
Yeah.
Probably if my home advisors had in my home county had retired, that's what I'd have done for a living. I loved it. I still cherish those associations I had with FFA members, and it deepened my appreciation of agriculture education and FFA. But I had a goal, and I had read a book at the time called The Magic of Believing, and you can take that stuff too far. But one of the techniques they had on there, if you had a goal, to take a piece of soap and write it on your bathroom mirror. And I wasn't married at the time, or else I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But all I had to satisfy was myself. So I wrote 3 initials on there: MSU. And I looked at that every day for 2 years, and that's what I wanted to do, to get back to Murray State as a professor. And to do that, I had to pack everything I owned in the back of my dad's pickup truck. I went to Oklahoma State University and spent 2 years in captivity out there in graduate program, and then graduated and actually got hired to come back to Murray State after year 1 out there. And I came back to Murray State in 1988, and the rest is history. I came back as halftime ag ed, halftime ag mech, halftime recruiting, and I added to that halftime pay because they didn't pay that much at the time. But it really established my career in higher education, and I never wanted to move. I was at home. They say Murray just feels like home. Murray State just feels like home, and it certainly did to me. And it was home, 9 miles from where I grew up. What else could a person want? You know, and I had the opportunity to work in teacher education, train teachers. I had the opportunity then to become administrator as the chair, and then academic coordinator, and finally as dean, where I served the last 20 years as dean. During that period, got to be associated with the Kentucky FFA, on the FFA Foundation board. I'm not sure how long, over 25 years. I was in one of those positions that didn't rotate. Probably a lot of people would like me to just rotate it and got out of the way, but I loved it. So, and had the opportunity to parent a couple of FFA members. So really, I've seen FFA from every level. I've seen it as a student. I've seen it as a student teacher. I've seen it as a teacher. I've seen it as a teacher educator, training teachers. I've seen it from the foundation, and I've seen it as a parent and a foundation supporter and a giver. And it just it's unparalleled. It is truly a great organization, and it means so much, and it really shaped who I am.
Well, you can definitely tell. And I love that you gave us your background, and it lets our listeners, if they don't know you personally, you have held so many different roles in the ag industry, but specifically around education, ag education, and like you said, teacher education as well. And you just have such a passion for agriculture education. So for our listeners, which are a lot of students in high school, what would you say about what makes a career in agriculture education so relevant and still relevant to this day?
Yeah, sure. I always said in that 6th paragraph, my FFA creed said that FFA helps in so many. It helps to establish career skills, but it makes you to think. And I believe real leaders can think for themselves, and students can think for themselves. And I've seen FFA develop so many students that way. And I always said this: it teaches you how to win, but it also teaches you how to lose. One of my standard talking points has been, I don't care how smart you are, how rich your parents are, where you live, what school you go to, how hard you work. In FFA, you'll both win and lose. Because it gives you enough opportunity. It gives everybody an opportunity to win, but it also teaches you how to lose, because you don't always finish first. And you got to keep setting goals to move forward. So just the networking is phenomenal. Obviously, the career fairs and those type things show many different, over 200 careers in agriculture, and that's just the beginning. That's not even all inclusive, particularly in modern day agriculture. So when I look at it, I see FFA as a great training ground. And you see here so many people that say they got their start in FFA. So you just got to find a niche, find something that you're interested in FFA through proficiencies, through SAEs, which will provide college education support materials. I just judged yesterday the American Star Farmer competition, and to see some of those people start with an income of 12 million, and I mean $12 the first year, and end up in the last year of the FFA membership with $1.2 million of sales is just phenomenal. So you have the opportunity to earn money, you have the opportunity to earn awards, but more importantly, develop life skills.
What would you say to a young person or just any person who's considering a career in agriculture? What advice might you give them?
Get a great education. And by that, I don't mean just a degree. That was one of my Brannonisms that I always preached is don't just get a degree somewhere, get an education. Many places, any place you go can offer you a degree. You can take courses and get grades and get a degree, but it's what you do extra that really can springboard your career opportunities in ag and through FFA. Take advantage of all those opportunities. There's a great organization called AFA, the Ag Future of America, that meets in Kansas City, and I formed a good relationship with them. And I know people that's in the ag industry today because they took the extra effort to go to that conference and didn't just stay at home and go to class. So you got to look for those opportunities. Keep your wheelbarrow turned over, something that I always said, and people will pile stuff in it. So the career opportunities, they don't come seeking you. You have to seek them out, but you have to put yourself in a position to seek those things out. So attend as many events, join network groups, fraternities, sororities, clubs, organizations, those type through education. And I would never minimize education, but you never know who you and what you associate. The only difference between you now and you 5 years from now is the things that you see, read, and hear, and or the people you associate with. And I put heavy emphasis on the people you associate with. Excuse me. That's how I got my first job. Yeah. Is my supervisor called me and said, "You going to hang around the farm, or you going to go teach?" And I said, "Why not? You go teach." So people will look out for you if you put yourself in that position.
That's so true. Keep your wheelbarrow open. People will throw some stuff in it.
That's right. Love it.
So while your time at Murray State, it grew so tremendously. I really didn't know how big the numbers were and the growth until we watched your Real Kentuckian video that maybe we'll link in the notes if it's available. But what were some of those values that helped guide your vision into growing Murray State School of Agriculture to what it is?
We were very, very fortunate that we had good programs, we had good faculty, we had good help, and everybody bought into the recruiting. Yes, I formed a recruiting relationship with high school ag teachers, many of whom had graduated from our program. But you only have one chance to make a good first impression, and we wanted to make a good first impression. When I came back in 1988, the first freshman orientation class that we had 56 people in it, 56 students. We were at one of our all-time lows, 288 students, as I remember it specifically. But we put a lot of effort into it. We started signing kids. Like they make a big deal in athletics about signing letters of intent. We started seeking out some of those good students and signing them up, just having a signing ceremony. And that was way before its time. And the second year, we had 61 students in freshman orientation. That was an increase of 6 students, but it was 10%. So we led the articles with Murray State freshman enrollment up 10%. But I always like to give specific numbers because when you start rounding off numbers, that takes away the individuality. And every one of those students counted. So I kept a regular count of how many students that we had in agriculture. And I always heard if a student locally said they didn't want to choose our university, and we're fortunate, number one, in Kentucky to have a lot of good ag programs. I learned very early on, and I knew we didn't get to where we were by talking down on any other program because they're all good. They all got good people, but it's about choices, and it's about where you feel comfortable and where you feel wanted. And so we kind of established that philosophy, and we went after students. But anytime a student said they wasn't going to come to Murray State, they always told me it's just too close. I need to get away. At that time, we didn't have very many people from the eastern part of the state that wanted to come to Murray. But I thought, if people around here want to go somewhere else, I bet some people somewhere else want to come to Murray. And it really opened up our program when we started getting people not just from our region, but from across the state, because many of them went back home. And when they went back home, they told their friends about it, and it just snowballed. And you wake up, and all of a sudden, in 2000, we have 625 students, and then the university starts taking note, and they separated us into the School of Ag. And then we had a company through a planned gift to take on the namesake. We were the first named unit at Murray State. We became the Hutson School of Ag. And then all of a sudden we look up and we have 1,000 students. And then we start a high school Racer Academy of Agriculture, a dual credit program. And we started with a bet that between me and the provost secretary that we couldn't get 15 people in a dual credit class. And we got 25 the first year. And the latest reports, I think they have 700, 800, 900 students in that dual credit program serving all across the state of Kentucky. And it just served as a bridge program. That's what we called it when we first started, between high school and in college. And quite frankly, very few students now come into college without at least some college credit in dual credit. We wanted to provide that in agriculture. So we had a lot of good help. We had a good recruiting coordinator that took some of that off of me. But to show out, you got to show up. And it was always my philosophy, if there was a meeting in the state of Kentucky, we needed to be there. We needed to show up. And we just didn't show up. When we went to the state fair, we went to furthest of any university, because we're a long way from Louisville, and a long way from Frankfort, and a long way from Lexington. But we didn't want to just show up with one person. We took a crew. And I really believe that paid off. And we were so fortunate. Good programs, good people, good students, good alumni, good industry support equals that growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. And so I think if a student is watching this and they have signed up for a dual credit class, or they're working on that, you're kind of seeing the vision for how that even started many years ago and how many people that's influenced. It's pretty great.
Exactly. And we strive to build those courses. We're using a platform with ICEV, and now we've had several directors of that, but now Mr. David Black's become the face and works of that program. And he just has done tremendous. He's got more students enrolled in his classes than any professor at Murray State.
Wow.
So,
that is incredible.
He has the support of those local teachers who deliver that instruction, but they're all under the Racer Academy umbrella under David Black. So that's been a great opportunity. And I've encouraged students to take as many of those classes you have, because it's not only about getting credit, it's the best economic development driver that we have, because those classes are at a discounted rate, and it will save lots on an education. And I put the power of my belief in the local high school ag teacher delivering some of those basic courses, because I firmly believe that the quality of instruction there, my sons had dual credit, and I believe that they got good curriculum, good education from their local high school teacher under that umbrella.
I agree. I hope dual credit is here to stay, because it is such a great thing for students in high school. It gives them access that they might not have had before.
Yeah, and I've always said the reason that students don't succeed in college is not because they can't do the work. It's because, number one, they don't see the relevancy, or number two, they're scared that they can't do it. And when they get their toes in the water, as you might say, in their first class, and say, hey, I can do this type work, again, it just becomes that bridge.
Yes. It is so great hearing about just the different things you've pioneered throughout your career. You really have. Like, I know you laugh at that, but you really have pioneered quite a few things, and you've been recognized by a lot of different organizations and received lots of accolades. But I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what are the milestones of your career that you're most proud of?
Well, certainly the award that Sheldon mentioned is kind of a capstone. I wanted to always leave a leadership legacy. So I think back on my career, And to see it recognized is really humbling. Sometimes it's almost unbelievable because I just went about doing an honest day's work for an honest day's pay and tried to make a difference. Vision, I think, has led to some of that, but the award from the Kentucky Electric Co-op certainly in 2014, I believe, I received the Outstanding CTE Educator, Career and Technical Educator Award from the ACTE organization. I had won Kentucky, been named the Outstanding CTE Educator in Kentucky. Then I went to the region and won the region, and it was 6 finalists, and it was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Actually, my family couldn't go because Caleb was in the Outstanding Farm Bureau Youth, so I was out there by myself. And I had a saying when I was in high school. They had an academic committee and then they had a vocational committee. And I stood up in the faculty member. I said, why do we have 2 committees? They're all educators. Let's join them together. And I coined a phrase, another Brannonism that says academic education is not academic unless it's vocational, and vocational education is not education unless it's academic. We teach academic skills in ag too, and you can't separate them that easily. So I was sitting at that banquet, and the former Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan, was the speaker. And as he was giving his remarks, he says, is there a Tony Brannon in the room? And I'm looking around and I said, did he just call my name? You know, and I raised my hand and he said, I want to quote him. And he used that quote and he quoted me. And then when it come to the competition, I was fortunate enough to be named the national winner. And I always remember I told him, I said, to be at a meeting like this and receive this award and be quoted by the Secretary of Education of the United States of America, all I can say is, dang, they ain't gonna believe this back home. And so it was that was quite an honor, and to have received Distinguished Service Award from the Farm Bureau, from the Kentucky Soybean Association. It seems like certainly relish in my service to the Kentucky FFA Foundation. You know, every time that I look at that budget and I see that, I had the opportunity, and probably my favorite service to agriculture is among 2 things statewide, and that's the Kentucky FFA Foundation and the Kentucky Ag Council. Had the opportunity to chair those organizations on several occasions, but I go back to when the FFA Foundation had to pass the hat to get $75,000 at the state convention to support FFA members. We wrote a grant, was approved by the state ag development board for $2 million, later added to it. But that grant continues to pay off to support FFA members. So of all the honors I've had, just having the opportunity to serve the Kentucky FFA and the Kentucky FFA Foundation would have to be high on the list.
Yeah.
Thankful,
Those are
Dr.
great milestones.
You know, actually in my office, I'm looking at the actual big check that you all used for the $2 million that came to Kentucky FFA. We've endowed 20 plus years later, 22 years later, that $2 million endowment is now worth about $6 million. And we take 3% of it annually to further ag education FFA. So
I love it. I love it. And it's an interesting, you know, one of the ways that we got that done, the National FFA Convention had moved to Louisville. And it was a big economic development thing. So we pledged out of that first endowment, out of that first thing, that we would contribute some of the interest to the National FFA as long as they kept the convention in Louisville. So we showed up at the FFA convention in Louisville. Billy Ray Smith, the Commissioner of Agriculture, the Governor, Paul Patton, and I, as the chair of the Kentucky FFA Foundation. And we were going to present that check to the National FFA on the stage, and they cut us off. Well, it was a round arena at that time they had in the middle. And for some reason, they thought the governor would speak too long or become political, and they didn't want to do it. And we started up the steps, and they cut him off, and him and Billy Ray went around to the side and went up the steps and took the microphone and presented it anyway. And they said they didn't know a governor could speak for less than 3 minutes, but we did it. And when I was cleaning up my office, I ran a picture of that first check that we had. for $2 million. And that would be a milestone, Ruth Ann. That would be a
Yeah.
milestone.
It's a milestone for sure. We are another milestone in Kentucky FFA history. The old administration building is in the process of coming down, and a new building going to be put up, and it was in the archives. So Ruth Ann and I went and dug around and got some old foundation archives things, and I don't know what we're going to do with it. Definitely needs to be framed because it was a game changer for the foundation and for FFA members for forever.
When I
Yes.
go through my 35-year collection in my office and get it in my home office, I may send you some more that I run into. So
Please
been
do.
around a long time.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, you have mentioned a few of your Brannonisms, which are just, sayings that you use a lot. I have one. It's about a turtle. So why don't you share it first? What is your turtle Brannonism?
Okay.
About
And most everything that I have in these things, these sayings, they're not all certainly original to me. I picked them up at various things, and they stick in my memory because we try to do that. So I give total ownership of these to other people, but I've just copied it. My professor said it was legal larceny if you copied what somebody said. So, but it's called a post turtle, and it says it feel like a turtle on top of a fence post. I'm glad to be where I'm at, but I realize I didn't get there by myself. I had a lot of people that helped me get to where I was in my career. I couldn't have accomplished nearer than what I did. It's all about people, Sheldon. It's all about people, and people help put me up there. Now, there's another verse that says that you're too dumb to get down or something, that goes on, and that's probably the case too. But I leave that part of it out. But
it.
anyway, it's been a good career guidance for me.
Yes, I love that saying. I have felt like a turtle on a fence post a lot of times, but the reason it is like so meaningful is that one day I was taking a walk and my dog finds box turtles and he will chew on box turtles. And so I've rescued many a box turtle from my dog.
Put them up
And
on the fence post.
did. On this walk, I took this turtle that he found, I put it on the fence post, and I was like, I'll get you on my way back when my dog is distracted. And I took a picture because I thought I have actually put a turtle on a fence post.
I think so either you sent me that or Matt Coliff may have sent me one that was the same type of picture where they actually saw. Maybe it's Brian Parr that sent me a picture with a turtle on a fence post. And
so it's I just love all those sayings, and they've been meaningful for sure.
Yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of Brannonisms, maybe this is a little bit deeper, but we always ask our guests the same 3 questions to wrap up. One, this might be hard for you to decide. I don't know. But the first is, what is the greatest piece of leadership advice you've ever received?
I put leaders on a high plane. I think leadership is the greatest skill that anyone can have, and I think FFA helps with that. But throughout my over 40 years in education and dealing with people, I picked up one saying a little bit later in my career that I think is really a model for all of us. And it seems quite, we talk about ratios a lot, and people in math, they don't necessarily understand fractions or ratios, but a 1-to-1 ratio, it means one thing of another is another. And so I think the leadership can be summed up by what is your say-do ratio. I've known a lot of people in my life that if they tell you something, you can mark it down. I also judge other people that tell you something and it's just like they're saying it to hear themselves talk. There's no action. Leadership without action is not true leadership. So I say you got to have the leadership. You got to say what you're going to do, and then you got to do it. And as long as you keep that in the back of your mind, former professor of mine, Eldon Heathcott, always said regarding that topics like this is sell the truth. And he always said, if you tell the truth, you don't ever have to wonder about what you said.
Yeah.
And when you sell the truth, when you say what you're going to do and then you do it, you have a proven track record. And to me, that's leadership. That's leadership. Set goals, certainly work towards those goals, but don't make statements that you know you can't fulfill.
Mhm.
Sets a standard. I always said sets a standard. If you can't do anything else, you can set the standard. And that's different levels for different folks. Let's face it, not everybody's destined to be a leader. We need good followers too. And
Yeah.
I think a good leader can develop that leadership to be a good follower too.
Yeah, those are great reminders for all of us. Another thing we love to ask our guests, and you know as well as anyone that philanthropy is all about giving back, and people give back in lots of ways. And we've all had people that put us on that fence post, and they poured into us with their time and their effort. So, who is one person? This is hard to narrow it down to one that you'd really like to shout out that helped pour into you and helped you grow into the leader that you are.
You know, there's some people that give of themselves, and that's the biggest philanthropy that we can have. And I think I said in my remarks when I retired off the foundation board and was honored that I just wanted to leave a leadership legacy. But sometimes when you're associated with leadership and with leaders, they just keep coming back around. And I know if it was in a different context, I might have a different person.
Mm-hmm.
But in my career in ag education and FFA and ag industry in Kentucky, I'd have to single out Billy Ray Smith. He was running for Commissioner of Agriculture, and I didn't know him from anyone, certainly a graduate of a different university, a well-established politician, and I was a nobody at Murray State. And he befriended me, put me in some leadership positions. And when I was FFA chair, he made me really good because he brought one of those big $25,000 checks, Sheldon, to allow us to hire the first director. And so I worked with him as a representative, and then I worked with him as Commissioner of Agriculture. And then he served his terms as Commissioner of Agriculture, and he was active in the foundation board. And we had a committee to hire the next executive director. We had a vacancy at the time, and he was on the committee, and we couldn't find anybody that we were real comfortable with. And he called me one day and said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, I think we're going to hire Billy Ray Smith." And he said, "Say what?" And I said, "I think we're going to hire you." And he said, "Really? You think so?" I said, "You need to think about it." And we were fortunate to hire enough. And he mentored me. He guided me early in mid-career in the foundation. And then we've remained friends with that. And he's still on the fair board. He's still serving. And you know, he caught me nearly in tears at the state ham breakfast last year and told me how much I meant to him. And really, those roles should be reversed. He means a lot to me. We went to Mexico on a trip, an ag leadership trip, and he and his wife went with us. And he missed the plane on the way down there. So I always kidded him about if it hadn't been for me, we wouldn't have got him picked up at that airport in Mexico. He wouldn't have gone through. But we ran hard and fast during that. But I got to know him on so many different levels. And you look up the term professional in the dictionary, and it may have Billy Ray Smith's picture. So I would single out him from the FFA standpoint of career service to agriculture as somebody that really invested in me and really encouraged me and motivated me. I want to be like Billy Ray. And it pleases me when I hear every Commissioner of Agriculture say, you know, he was a gold standard. And I'd say the blue and gold standard.
Yeah.
Why not blue and gold standard? There you go.
It was. Well, so many people could say how much Billy Ray did for them, and I'm certainly one of those folks too. So it's a great friend to have.
Yeah, we have hired you, and you had a couple of years to shadow under him. So how fortunate.
I know.
Or challenging. That'd be like trying to follow around Tony Brannon. Sometimes Billy Ray and I was a little scattered. You're more structured than we were. So.
Yeah, I interned for Billy Ray when I was a college student, and I went to his house. He worked from his office. I went to Western, and I went to his home in the mornings, and he gave me kind of a list of things to do for the foundation that week. And I kept him organized during that time. And then when I taught high school agriculture, and I was being a youth service center director after I got married, and he wanted to retire. And I think y'all hired me on an interim basis just to kind of see, and Billy Ray needed somebody he was comfortable with. And I think he left the foundation within about 6 months after I started, but he's still around, a great donor, a great friend, and I'm still around too. And that probably surprises
Yeah,
you.
you probably topped the tenure mark now. You're probably the longest tenured ever executive director that we had by a long shot, I'd say.
Sure. So I started in 2012. So this year was 12 years. Yeah.
Right. 12 good years.
12
Unbelievable growth. And I appreciate and respect you so much. Again, I was fortunate to get to work with some of the best. Actually, going back from the very beginning, I was chair when we hired the first executive director, and since somehow migrated to the HR role. So I've had a hand in hiring every one of them, and we made some good choices.
Yes, I appreciate it. We continue to make good choices. We have a great team. So last question is, this could be anything you're thinking. It could be silly, it could be serious, whatever's on your mind. What is something that you're loving right now that's helping you grow?
Well, I'm loving my current position. I said at my retirement, and thank you, you were there, and Matt was there, and the FFA Foundation. But I said that I quoted Helen Keller. Somebody said it's kind of like the blind quoting the blind, but it said the end of the bend in the road's not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And I was able to make the turn, and certainly it's a long way down when you've spent 34 years at something and all of a sudden you wake up and you're not doing it anymore. So I wasn't really looking for anything, but Wave Ag, the West Kentucky Alliance for a Vibrant Economy, gave me an opportunity to take I thought a part-time role and part-time pay, but full-time role and part-time pay, I think now are more adequate. But it supported my travel habit, and it kept me active in FFA, being able to go there and go to Kentucky Ag Council meetings. So that's the latest thing that's kind of kept me energized. And then my family. I've been so blessed with a wonderful wife that, as I say, made up for me when I wasn't at home and put up with me when I was. And my two boys, who are both state FFA star farmers in Kentucky, and have very, very good roles in agriculture. And career opportunities, and FFA's meant so much to them. So we've been an FFA family. And I guess one of the things I wanted to add on to my office, since everybody asked me why I wanted to do that, but I want to showcase FFA. I got their jackets and I got my jackets, and that provides me motivation every day. Have that grandson that you mentioned, hopefully more to come, take up more time. Lisa's very devoted to that, but I get the opportunity to interact from occasion as doc. So I look forward to that. That's certainly motivating every day. But just I've always said everybody needs to be doing something, and I've been fortunate to stay busy.
Yeah. Well, you are. You have, I love that quote about it's not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. And it's been fun to watch you navigate that. And whatever you do, you're going to really be successful in. And you still have so much more good to give and share and lead. And I'm grateful you've been a mentor to me and a great advocate and friend to Kentucky FFA. So, yeah, thanks for being on our show, Dr. Brannon. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I get to listen to a lot of these, and that's appreciate y'all doing that. That's the way we do business now. So we had a student to come in and started a podcast there, and I like the conversational way of getting to know people, and I appreciate y'all doing this. Appreciate the job y'all do supporting FFA in Kentucky.
Thank you. Well, it is still fun to do it all these years later, and Ruth Ann's made it even more fun. So we'll see how much longer of it, but it's all great. Still love it. So, well, y'all, thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing Kentucky's Leaders. We'll see you next time. Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.